Hi, this is Miss Nickel, and this video is on counting atoms in a compound. This is an important skill that you need to know in order to be able to balance equations correctly. And what we're going to be learning to do is just how to figure out how many atoms of each element there are in any given compound, or depending on how many units of that compound there are. We'll talk more about that. Okay, so I have the steps right up here at the top of the worksheet in case you forget. This is a handy thing to keep around even when you're not working on the worksheet. And so this is step number 1 here. And so anytime we do step number 1, I'm going to have that I'm going to use my dark pink here to color code. And that's where you're going to set the number of atoms of each element equal to the subscript for that element. We'll go through these with examples. First, I'm just talking about the colors. Next one, you're going to count the things inside parentheses. That's number 2, if there are parentheses. And we'll talk about what that means. That's going to be an orange when we do that. And then the last part is that we'll look at the coefficient for that element, or for the entire compound, that is. And we're going to do that in green. That's going to be step number 3. And here at the end, then, we'll put the total for that element. That's the total number of atoms for that particular element. And we're going to do that. That's step 4, last thing we do in blue. Okay, so let's get started on our worksheet now. First example I'm going to do right here is this one, sodium chloride. Let's start out with sodium chloride because it's a very, very simple example. So we're going to start out always with the dark pink. We'll list the elements in the compound. So we've got a sodium and a chlorine atom. Now, very important, when you have C and L together, that's chlorine, not carbon and iodine, okay? If I do iodine, I'll always make it super clear like this, so that you can tell that that's a letter I. So Cl will always be chlorine. And I'm going to set that equal to the subscript for that element in the compound. So since there are no subscripts are the little numbers to the right of each element, the subscript is automatically 1 when there isn't one listed. So we're going to say Na is equal to 1 and Cl is equal to 1. Now, because we don't have anything else in that compound, none of the other steps are present, we're just going to circle that 1, and we have 1 atom of sodium and 1 atom of chlorine total. Now, if we go next door here to sodium bromide, we still start out with the same step, which is we're going to list the elements, sodium and bromide, set them equal to their individual subscripts, which is 1 for each of these, but now we have no parentheses, but we have a coefficient. The coefficient is the number in front of the formula, and it tells us how many copies of that formula there are, or how many molecules of that formula. And formula is just another word for compound. Okay, so this tells me I have 2 molecules of this. So I'm going to multiply each of these subscripts by 2. That means everything in the compound is multiplied by 2. And then, pretty simple multiplication there, right? That's going to be our totals are going to be 2 atoms of sodium and 2 atoms of bromine. And that's it for that one. Okay, moving on down. We're going to change some more things. Let's go here to this one, K2CO3. This one has 3 elements in it. I'm going to list the elements. First step, K, C, and O. Set them equal to their individual subscripts. Now we have subscripts that are not 1. K has a subscript of 2. I'll set that equal to 2. C, or carbon, has no subscript. That's going to be equal to 1 then. And the 3 comes after oxygen. That's going to be equal to 3. So you'll notice that the 3 to the right of oxygen only affected oxygen. It has nothing to do with carbon. Okay, so subscripts only affect the atom immediately to their left. They don't have any other effect on the other elements in the compound. Now there is no coefficient here. The coefficient's the big number before the compound, so that means we have only one copy, and we are done right now. So I can just go ahead and circle those. Okay, let's find a little different example. All right, now we'll have one with different subscripts and a coefficient right here. So we've got 3 different elements again. I'm going to list them. Sodium, chromium, which is Cr, and oxygen. Now, just an aside, how can I tell which combinations of letters are individual elements? Well, elements will either be a single capital letter or a capital letter with a small letter next to it. It will never be 2 capital letters together. That will never be an element. It's either a single capital letter like oxygen or a capital letter with a small letter next to it like chromium or sodium. Okay? All right, so let's set each of those equal to their subscript. Sodium is equal to 2, chromium is equal to 1, and oxygen is equal to 4. Are we done? No, we are not, because this time we have a coefficient. The coefficient is the number before the compound. It tells me I have 5 molecules of sodium chromate, or whatever that one is, compound right here. So I'm going to multiply each of these by 5 times 5 because the coefficient applies to everything in the compound. I'm going to multiply those out, and they are going to come to 10, 5, and 20. So now things are getting a little more interesting. Our numbers are going up. That's fine. We've got 10 atoms of sodium total, 5 atoms of chromium total, and 20 atoms of oxygen total. And I am done with that problem. Okay, moving on to magnesium phosphate right here. That's the next one we're going to do because it's going to be the first one we try with everything in it. It's got parentheses too. So let's see how that would work. What are we going to add in now? We always start the same. We list the elements. Let's do it. Magnesium, phosphorus, oxygen, just like that. Okay? We set them equal to their individual subscripts. We're not going to do anything about this parentheses subscript yet, okay? So magnesium will be equal to 3, phosphorus will be equal to 1, and oxygen is equal to 4. All right, after we do that now, that's when, if you look up here, if we have parentheses, that's when we handle it. It's in between the subscript and the coefficient. So I'm going to go ahead then, and I'm going to multiply only the elements inside the parentheses by this number here. So only the elements inside the parentheses. So that means I'll multiply phosphorus by 2 and oxygen by 2. Now I'm still not done because I have to look at the coefficient. So with the coefficient then, that applies to everything. So now I'll multiply everything by the coefficient. I multiply out each of these number sentences. This is going to be 6 and 4 and 16. And those are my totals for this compound. Okay, so I am going to do one last one, this one down at the bottom. If you can do this one, you can do anything. It's the same as before, more or less, but it's just got more numbers in it. Okay, so we're going to list each of the elements in the compound. Nitrogen is equal to 1. We just start out with their subscripts, nothing else. Hydrogen is equal to 4. Chromium is equal to 2. And oxygen is equal to 7. After we do that, we go to the parentheses, if there are parentheses. So here we have parentheses. The 2 only applies to the nitrogen and the hydrogen. So we're going to multiply each of these by 2. We have 2 copies of everything inside the parentheses as part of this bigger compound. Okay, now we're going to multiply everything by the coefficient. Oh, and I forgot, I need to circle this in orange. And then we do our coefficient, everything by 2. By 2. And we're going to solve then for our totals. That's going to be equal to 4, 16, 4, and 14. Okay, so that is it. So really it's pretty straightforward. You just have to know the steps. If you get confused, look up here at the top of the worksheet or check back on this video. So I hope things are going well for you, and if you need more help with this or anything else, please get in touch with me. Office hours on Mondays from 1 to 3, but I'm available by appointment at other times. Take care and talk to you soon.